Good morning everyone and welcome to the class. We are doing the chapter The Making of the National Movement, and under this chapter we have done up to the developments during the period of 1922 to 1929, and the last thing which we discussed in this development of politics between 1922 to 29, we have seen that 26 January 1930 was celebrated as Independence Day by Congress because in December 1929 at Lahore session of the Congress, the aim of the Congress was declared as to achieve the complete independence, that is Purna Swaraj. And now we will see what happened in 1930. We see that in 1930 a new mass movement was started by Gandhi, and this was the mass movement which was named as Civil Disobedience movement. So it was started in 1930. First of all, you must understand the name of the movement, like the non-cooperation movement, which was started in 1921. In that, what we find that the movement was to not to cooperate with the government, and in order to so that the people are not cooperating with the government, what was done by the people, that people started boycotting the agencies of the government, the offices of the government, the projects of the British, everything which was British was started to be boycotted by the people. That was non-cooperation movement. Simply, we are not cooperating with the government. And now it was a civil disobedience movement. So first of all, you should understand the meaning of disobedience or obedience. What is obedience? To follow the order, to follow the rules, to follow the laws. This is obedience. A student is called obedient if he or she follows the instruction, maintain discipline in the class, follows the instruction of the teacher and all. So obedient का मतलब होता है जो आज्ञाकारी है, जो बात को मानता है, रूल्स को मानता है, लॉज को मानता है ना. सो नाउ डिसओबीडियंस, ओबीडियंस के आगे क्या लग गया? डिस. व्हेनेवर दिस टाइप ऑफ वर्ड्स, this dis is associated with any word, what does it mean? उसका उल्टा हो जाता है ना, opposite. obedience का उल्टा क्या होगा? The opposite antonym of obedience is disobedience, isn't it? So obedience हुआ जो बातों को मानने का जो process है, that is obedience. Disobedience नहीं मानना, rules को, laws को नहीं मानना, not to obey the rules and the laws of the land, not to defy the laws of the land. defy करना मतलब नहीं मानना, है ना, उसको accept नहीं करना, उसको follow नहीं करना. So this is disobedience. जब हम अपने से superior authority की, जो authority में हमसे बड़ा है ना, the person who is having superior authority than me, and I am not obeying the instruction of that superior authority, then it is called disobedience. Okay, so this disobedience was now it was the essence of this movement. Now the nationalist leaders were not ready to follow the laws of the British. They were not ready to follow the rules of the British. Now they are ready to defy the rules. They are ready to go against the rule. They will not follow the rule, है ना. So this is disobedience. रूल को नहीं मानना. This disobedience is one step further the non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation में कहीं भी rules को नहीं मानने की बात नहीं की गई थी, है ना. Non-cooperation was simply not to cooperate with the government. इस तरह की problems create करो so that the government will be in trouble. It will not be able to run smoothly, it will face loss because of boycott and then cooperation from the Indians. So that was the purpose. Now the nationalist leaders have moved one step further, and now they are ready to disobedience. They are ready to disobedient. They are ready to be disobedient. Now they are ready to disobedience the laws and the rules of the British. Okay, and why it is called civil? Civil means without any violence. Civil means हो गया without violence. हम rule नहीं मानेंगे. We are not going to follow the rules. We are not going to follow the laws, but we will do everything peacefully without using any violent method. Okay. So now we find that Gandhi was again the leader of this mass movement, and we see that in this movement, which law particularly was chosen by Gandhi for not obeying. किस लॉ को गांधी ने चुना कि जिसको हम ओबे नहीं करेंगे? Okay, it was started with disobeying the it was started with disobeying the salt law. It was Gandhi who decided that salt law will be chosen first to defy the government. If we want to show our disobedience, it will be shown by disobeying the salt law. Now we see that Gandhiji in 1930, Gandhiji declared that he would lead a march to break the salt law. Okay, and what was the salt law? The salt law said that the state had a monopoly on the manufacture and sale of salt. No one can manufacture salt, no one can sell salt. The state has monopoly on the manufacturing and selling of salt. Now, from where we get salt? कहाँ से हमें salt मिलता है? Sea water, है ना? Sea water is salty. So if we collect the sea water and make it dry by the temperature, then what will happen? The salt will remain. The water will evaporate, and the salt will remain. So in this way, we can manufacture salt from the sea water, but it was not legal according to the British. According to the law which was made by the British, the salt law, the people cannot manufacture salt, they cannot sell salt. So now in 1930, Gandhi declared that he will lead a march to break the salt law, and he will manufacture salt from the sea water. So it was why salt was chosen. Why salt law was chosen by Gandhi for disobedience movement. Why this movement started with the disobedience of the salt law. First of all, what was the opinion of Gandhi and other leaders? They were of the opinion that it was sinful. Sin क्या होता है? कोई बहुत बुरा काम जो हम करते हैं, that is immoral, है ना? That is sin. So it was sinful according to Gandhi to tax salt, है ना? Because it is a very much essential item of our food. We cannot have food without salt. Salt is very much essential part of our food, so it should not be taxed. There should not be any tax on the salt. But the government imposed tax on salt, so it is sinful. ऐसा काम करना बहुत ही गलत है कि आप salt पे tax लगा रहे हो. It should not be done. Okay, so it was sinful to tax salt because it is very much essential item of our food. And now we find that the salt march This is called Salt March. The march which was started by Gandhi from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi, which was on the coast of Gujarat. So this march was known as Dandi March or Salt March. Okay, because it was called Dandi because he was to reach Dandi. It was started from Sabarmati Ashram, and it was called Salt March because he has to reach Dandi for what? For the manufacturing of the salt, है ना. तो इसीलिए इसको हम salt march भी कहते हैं, इसको Dandi march भी कहते हैं, है ना. And we see that this salt march related the general desire of freedom. हमें freedom चाहिए, we want freedom, because 1 year earlier, or we can say 4 or 5 months earlier, this was declared by Congress that complete independence is our aim. So now we wanted freedom, and how this freedom will be achieved if we are not, we don't have the right to manufacture salt, which is easily available through the seawater. No one has control over the sea. So seawater can be, anyone can make salt by using the seawater. So अगर आपको आज़ादी चाहिए तो सबसे पहले एक नमक तो बनाने की आपको आज़ादी एटलीस्ट होनी चाहिए, तब तो हम अपने कंट्री को आज़ाद करवा पाएंगे, है ना. तो इस तरह की फीलिंग्स को अराउज किया गया. एंड वन मोर थिंग इज देयर दैट गांधी जी chosen this salt, deliberately salt law, to start this disobedience movement, because salt is something which is required by all. Anyone may belong to any caste or any religion, or there may be difference in the economic and educational status of people. So there may be differences among the people on so many bases, but all of them need salt. So now, for Gandhi, what was important? Unity of the people. He knew that the British were very much powerful, है ना? They were very much powerful, and it is not easy to remove them from our country. And if we really want them to be removed, then what is the requirement? The requirement is unity among the people. There should not be any kind of division on the lines of caste or religion or gender or economic status. So that is why he had chosen salt law, because everyone uses salt, and if he will call people for the breaking of this salt law, everyone will feel that they should also participate in this movement, because the salt is associated, they can't live without salt, you know? So this was the reason why salt law was only chosen by Gandhi to start the civil disobedience movement. Okay, and now we will see. So Gandhi ji and his followers, they started their march from Sabarmati Ashram to this Dandi, which is the coastal city in coastal town of Gujarat. And here we find that what was the distance between Dandi and this Sabarmati. So they started from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. This is the name of the place, which is the coastal town. Okay, and what was the distance between these two places? Was 240 miles. Okay, and here in Dandi, they broke the salt law by gathering natural salt which was found on the seashore, and then they boiled seawater to produce salt. In this way, this Dandi march led to the breaking of the salt law. So what we find that people participated in large number in this movement, and people, different types of people like peasants, tribals, women, they all participated in this movement. And we see that there was a business federation who published a pamphlet on the salt issue. Pamphlet means एक पीस ऑफ पेपर पे इंफॉर्मेशन लिख करके लोगों के बीच में उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया गया, है ना, ताकि लोगों को पता चल सके. पीपल शुड बिकम अवेयर, बिकॉज क्या कुछ हो रहा है. एवरीथिंग वाज नॉट नोन टू ऑल द पीपल. न्यूज़ तो वही आएगा जो गवर्नमेंट चाहेगी, है ना, एंड गवर्नमेंट तो अपनी थी नहीं. तो इस कारण से पैम्फलेट पे इस पूरे के पूरे सॉल्ट इशू को पब्लिश करा के उसको लोगों के बीच में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कराया. गवर्नमेंट ने क्रश करने का बहुत एफर्ट किया कि इस मूवमेंट को ख़त्म कर दिया जाए, क्रश कर दिया जाए ब्रूटल एक्शन से, वायलेंस से. जबकि people were doing peaceful satyagraha. There was no use of violence by the people, but the government was using the government was using violence. Brutality was also done by the government, and so many people, thousands of people were sent to jail. And we see that these were the efforts done by people, and the result of we can say the consequence of this civil disobedience movement was the passing of the Government of India Act of 1935. Consequence मतलब result, है ना? Consequence of the Government of India Act of 1935. This act was passed by the British government, and we see that this act talks about the provincial autonomy. So what is the meaning of provincial autonomy? You know, provinces, the country was divided into different administrative units, and these were called the British India, and these were called provinces. So according to this act of 1935, the provinces were given freedom in some respect, not all. In some respect they were given freedom, and which is called provincial autonomy, है ना. And the government also announced that elections for these provincial legislatures will be held in 1937, and it held also. In 1937, elections were held for provincial legislatures, and we find that the Congress formed government in 7 out of 11 provinces. 11 provinces थे, जिसमें से 7 कांग्रेस ने गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म किया. कब? 1937 के इलेक्शंस पे. एंड 1937 का इलेक्शन क्यों हुआ? क्योंकि अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट ऑफ 1935. ओके, सो दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इलेक्शन in 1937. इलेक्शन फॉर व्हाट? इलेक्शन फॉर प्रोविंशियल लेजिस्लेचर, है ना. And in this provincial legislature election, Congress won in 7 provinces out of 11. 11 टोटल थे, उसमें से 7 में कांग्रेस ने जीता. ठीक है. और फिर क्या हो रहा है कि सितंबर 1939 में एक बहुत ही मेजर इवेंट होता है, एंड दैट इज द स्टार्टिंग, वी सी द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ द सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर, है ना. फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर तो हमने पढ़ा, उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ, 1914 से 1980 तक रहा, है. एंड देन आफ्टर 1918 हमने देखा कैसे उसका इम्पैक्ट हुआ, मास मूवमेंट को उसने जनरेट किया, सब कुछ हमने पढ़ा. अब हम कहाँ आ गए? 1939, सितंबर 1939, when Second World War was started. Okay, and we see that Second World War is associated with so many issues. Like this war was against Hitler. On one side, we see there were countries like Allied, which were called Allied powers, just like First World War. Germany, not Germany, Britain, France, USA, and USSR. These were the countries who were on one side. They were called Allied power. On the other side, there was Germany, Japan, and Italy. So this was actually, we can say in a way, it was a fight between democracy and dictatorship. Because अगर हम देखें तो Allied powers में कौन है? UK, France, US and USSR. और दूसरी तरफ जो एक्सिस पावर था उसमें कौन थे? जर्मनी, जापान एंड इटली. At that time, Germany was under the rule of Hitler. So Germany was under the rule of Hitler, who was a dictator. Italy was also under the rule of a dictator, Mussolini. So it was, in a way, we can say, it was a दुनिया को ये दिखाया गया कि ये एक लड़ाई है डेमोक्रेसी और नॉन डेमोक्रेसी डिक्टेटर्स के बीच की. ठीक है. सो वी विल कंटिन्यू विद दिस इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास.